Ladies and gentlemen, you may take your seats in the hall. And we thank you for your patience as Yang Berhormat Prime Minister has exited the hall. We still have a full afternoon of presentations scheduled ahead of us, so let's get right to it. Before we begin, the afternoon sessions will have Q&A sessions at the end of their presentation. So make sure to use the event app, or you may scan the QR code currently on the screen to ask questions of the speaker through Slido. In the fourth keynote presentation of ISWC 2025, we have invited Dr. Amjad Rabi. Dr. Rabi currently serves as a visiting expert at University Malaya's Social Wellbeing Research Centre and a lecturer of Human Security at the University of Nottingham Malaysia campus and the Balsillie School of International Affairs in Canada. He has held senior positions within the United Nations, working in country offices, including Iraq and Malaysia, as well as UN headquarters in New York and Geneva. His influential work in policy reform is supported by numerous publications on the subject, and he has trained social security professionals in over 30 countries. His session, titled Pension Innovation, Securing Financial Well-being in a 100-Year Life, aims to redefine what pensions represent in the modern context, highlighting their evolving role in securing long-term income amidst demographic shifts, changing work patterns, and rising longevity. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Amjad Rabi.
Assalamu alaikum. Good afternoon. Just wanted to start by thanking my friend Ayman for the generous introduction, but he has, and your also Hannah, you guys have done great work. And I'm a fan of EPF staff. I've been working with them, so there are many, many people behind. Like I look at Shariman, my friend who has been helping me a lot. So they've done a lot of preparation. So thank you very much, EPF, and thank you for inviting me. So I will go straight to the point. It's lots of pressure to speak after the PM, so I'll be cool. So what I wanted to look at is linked to what we've seen other speakers talking about today, but I will bring it to Malaysia. I just wanted to focus on the reform in Malaysia, but doing so, I will start by looking at what is the problem we're looking at. And this graph where I have the EU, Australia, Italy, Sweden, this graph can be just in any country and at any time of history. So if you go back 1,000 years ago, this graph is still applicable. The issue here, we have consumption. At any moment of our life, we consume. Whether you're young, whether you're old, we breathe, we drink water, we use resources. Consumption is kind of, throughout our life, where income is not. Income, it's followed like a bell-shaped curve. And that's where we have the issue is you have a surplus at certain time of, or certain periods of our life and shortages. And this is, again, like if you go 1,000 years, 2,000 years ago, the same issue. Probably now this graph just extended because of longevity or people live longer. And how, as I mentioned, 1,000 years ago, if you go back, the same issue, we have it. But how we've been working on solution for it. Generally, we look at markets. If you go back 1,000 years, I'm from Palestine, so how people will do it, they buy olive trees in Palestine. Olive trees, it requires less work, and then it gives you, it outlives you. It's always there. You go to the market, you buy certain assets, now we buy property, or you go do saving this saving. But it's also throughout history, and we still continue to do this, is we rely on our family. And traditionally, people will have more children, and then it's a form of social security. When I'm old, there is intra-family transfer. So I take care of my children when they are young, and somehow when I'm old, I expect that they will take care of me. But everything else is working, but not to the fullest extent. We started seeing, after the Industrial Revolution, attempts to introduce public interventions. And I want to focus, of course, on the public, especially our topic, before we head into Malaysia's case. Public, as usually we say the first attempt was in Germany, Bismarck. We say the Bismarck model, so 1890s. that Bismarck's model, again, we're dealing with the same graph, but it would look at the labor income. Would say, let's take some proportion of the labor income when you are doing well from employer-employee, put it in a fund. The state does not do anything. It's just the state create the conducive environment for employer-employees to deduct some of the income and then give it back to you when you need it, when you're old age. This is the Bismarck model, which we still use it here in Malaysia, correct, in EPF. It can be like EPF defined contribution, or it can be like a QAB in Malaysia, defined benefit. And this followed, like quick history, go throughout the history. It actually, during the Great Depression, we had the economic theory that emerged, the Keynesian economics. The Keynesian economics that use fiscal stimulus to move the economy at time of regression or depression at that time. And that's when we started seeing social insurance. The Bismarck model is spreading. It was introduced in the United States in, as we know, the Social Security in the US in 1930s. But it also, if we go that year, we see that across all Europe, this social insurance model became very influential. And then we followed by another milestone right after World War II. We got into the, people wanted, we started looking at Social Security as a human right, stipulated in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights as a right to citizens to have Social Security, not exactly only social insurance, but a right to everyone. Now, countries got their independence. We start seeing the map getting bigger and bigger, where social insurance are there. Countries got their independence, especially in Africa, Latin America, and other countries. Where we are today is this map. So we have almost all countries except 5. Almost all countries, they have social, like a form of social security. What I wanted you to look at here, the color blue. The darker the blue into green, the better. Where this lighter color, it's less protection. This is the legal coverage. Do we have a law or not? What we see almost everywhere is blue, but I want to move it, the map, little bit here. The blue shifted into a lighter color. The reason for this is you have a law, but you don't have coverage. People in the working age population, they are not covered. And we know that it's because of informality in the labor market. So the law generally in many countries cover the formal sector. That the social insurance model, it assumes there is a contractual agreement that you are employee-employer relationship that then we deduct from your income. But what if I'm self-employed? Many countries don't have. So that we see the color blue, what we've seen before, it becomes lighter color, or what I mean by lighter color is less than 20% coverage, or 20 to 40%. And this is common. So that's where we look at another model. We need to come back to this. So the Bismarck model look at income. Now, what if we look at other form, consumption? And how is that? We here in Malaysia, here now the discussion, what's the discussion on BFM before I came here about SST, increase of SST. So the discussion tax is not only tax income side, but tax it's also consumption side. So the idea here is to mix income and consumption to fund Social Security. So why we need only to rely on income side to fund Social Security? It could be done also from the consumption side, which is more stable. That's what other countries they've done. If we go back where the tax-funded Social Security started, see 2 dots, Denmark, Iceland. So started, looking at this one. Then we started seeing it shifting to other countries, right? And this is by 1913. You have the UK, Australia, New Zealand, Sweden. We start seeing more countries coming in. And the idea here is also income. Not everyone generates income. Many, especially housewives, so should we leave them without protection or the informal sector? So the idea here, we can close the coverage gap. So started modestly, but it's actually increasing, this 1889, and where we are today. want to see where we are today. Now, this is the 192 countries. What you see that almost all of them, they have a legal instrument. There is a law for coverage social security. Now, what you see, some countries 6, but now they are 4. 4 countries, not 6, 4, they don't have social security. It has to be periodic, paid every month. But what's interesting here, we have 72 countries, they only have contributory scheme, the Bismarck model, the income model that deducts from income. And you have another number of countries, 12 countries, they are having only the non-contributory, the consumption side. Remember, either income or consumption. But the rest is now we have mixture of both. So the rest, the growing number of countries is not either income or consumption, but let's mix it. Let's try to take advantage of every side of the equation. And that's why maybe I'll look at this graph, just to understand how countries, they succeed. Wanted you to see that this is pension coverage in 2000 to 2005, horizontal axis. Vertical axis, if you would see the coverage in 2015 to 20. So want to see over 10 years what happened. So let's draw this line. It helps us to understand. And why it helps us to understand, if you lower here, then it's a decrease of coverage, that the countries become more soft. But if you go up, it's increase of coverage. We see the first good news that most countries advanced. Most countries, coverage in 2015 to 2020 is better than coverage a decade earlier. Do we see it? Now, let's take one example, maybe just to understand the graph. I see people trying to understand it. Let's take our friends, our neighbors, Thailand, right? Look at Thailand. Now, in 2000 to 2005, what you would see that the coverage in 2000 to 2005 in Thailand, old age coverage was about 5%. Do we see it? About 5% coverage. In Malaysia, we were much better, right? We're much better than them. Correct? Now look at Thailand, what happens over the next decade. They went to 90%. Same thing we can see Maldives, Timor-Leste, China, Republic of Korea, Belarus, Turkey, all of them. They were lower, they shifted. How they did it? Again, not only to rely on the income side that you have social security that taken from employer-employee, like what we have in EPF, for a good reason, we'll see now in Malaysia, they rely on, let's supplement it with another one that is taken from the consumption side or the tax side, that then we cover everyone. So that's why we see countries succeeded quite well in terms of this. They didn't extend, like EPFs to everyone, but rather they immediately used the tax system. So let's zoom in Malaysia. Now in Malaysia, this is 2023. People in the working age defined 15 to 64. Now, somebody would say retirement age 60, somebody would say withdraw 55. People don't retire at 60, even retirement age 60. If you look at DOSOM statistics, you would have 40% of male, 20% of female. They work between age 60 and 64. So this is covering the whole population, right? So we're looking at working age, this globally defined. Now, we have in civil servants, we have about 1.2 million contribute to EPF. The civil service is more than this, but the ones they contribute to EPF is this. It's about 1.2 million, right? Now we have in EPF 8.5. Now it's 8.7, I think, in the last year, but just like around this number, correct? But what happens to the rest? This is. Usually, we obsessed with the gab driver. We want to include them. That's correct. We need to. But it's not only the informal sector, what we will see. Yeah, this is the first gap, is the workers who are in either formal, not covered, or informal, also not covered. The gab driver, but some are also doctors, some, self-employed. So the first gap, we have about 6.5 million. The second gap, those who are unemployed. In Malaysia, the good thing that unemployment is a smaller number in comparison to other countries, but this is second gap. Now we have a third gap. The third gap is people who are in the working age but not in the labor market, housewives. And some people, they taking care of like care providers, right? So this is the third group. If you use only employment or income side to increase coverage, if you use the Bismarck model, you would always stop here. And we see EPF is doing a great work to extend, but you will stop at one point. You're not gonna be able to go there because there is no income. That's why other countries, when we see Thailand, they managed to get all of those, all the groups, through taxation. So we need the mixture of them. So what I wanted first to highlight as one issue we need to keep in our mind when we talk about reform, one issue we has not only one gap, not only the informal, they are also housewives, they are people who are not in the labor market. The second issue I wanted now to take this 8.5 million, this whole like EPF, and spread them age-wise from 15 to 60 to 55. What happens here at 55? The Prime Minister mentioned that one of the issues is lump sum. At 55, they withdraw, right? So this is another issue here in the system. We have age of withdrawal is still 55 and lump sum. So I'm trying to have diagnostic exercise, so when we talk about solutions, it will be based on specific issues in the system. I want you to look at, we talk about life expectancy. Now, want you to see here life expectancy at age 15. So if the number is different, what you know, because I'm using at age 15, wanted when people enter the labor market. If you remove age 15 and you go at time of independence, it's actually life expectancy will be 54. Because at that time, many child mortality was very high. So I wanted to avoid child mortality, just focus 15. Those who enter EPF, they are expected to live 7-8 years, which is good. You have saving 7-8 years. You have enough saving that hopefully will last you. This is when EPF, like it started in the 1950s. Now, let's see what happens to the age. Increase. Did we increase the age of withdrawal? No, we kept it. So now it's not to last you 7 years, it's to last you 15 years, right? We did not increase it. Now we go forward. Today, if you, at age 15, your life expectancy is 77.6. It's actually, if you are at age 55, if you reach this age, at age 55, your life expectancy will be 79.6, almost 80 years. You have another 25 years to live, right? The question is, whatever we withdraw here at age 55, whatever we withdraw here, will it last us all the way to 80? No. Will it last us to 100? Because the topic is, are we ready for the 100? Of course not. Just to give you some numbers, like EPF, I think you heard it, EPF median saving is 44,000 at time of 54. So your average saving before you withdraw is 44,000. Now 44,000, we understand it will not last you, it will last you a couple of years. And that's exactly what happens. It will last you a couple of years. Okay? And that's another issue here. So the other issue is it's not adequate. The benefit is not adequate. It's not adequate. 44,000 just, if you look at per capita income in Malaysia, the 44,000, it would be 9 months of per capita income. So it's technically, it will last you for a little bit. So it's not sufficient. And remember, there are many, many people even without EPF, GAP 3 and GAP 2. So now let's zoom in inadequate benefit here. What is the reason for low saving? just also, we wanted to look at the minimum wage. This is before the increase the Prime Minister mentioned from 1,500 to 1,700, just right before when it was 1,500. You see, this is the minimum wage where Malaysia is. Now, generally speaking, usually minimum wage in many countries, not very large number who make minimum wage, not very large number. People are usually making above the minimum wage. But what's in Malaysia, firstly, it's low. Secondly, those who make around the minimum wage in Malaysia, it's about 30%. But the OECD average, the ones they make minimum wage, which is way higher, it's still 13%. So you have very large number of the population, they making minimum wage, very large number, and at the same time, the minimum wage is still low, right? And the ones, this 30%, but the median income is not that high also, it's 2,600 ringgit a month, right? So of course, if your wage is weak, your saving will be also not strong. Right, let me summarize here because we're going to get serious, look at serious business now. I want you to follow me, but just wanted to pause for a second to summarize what are the issues. First issue is low coverage. We have 3 gaps, very big coverage. Second issue, we look at low wage, and the low wage lead us to low saving. And the red one also, we have people that they start withdrawing at age 55. And they take it as lump sum. Okay? So when you take it as lump sum, we looked at the statistics at Social Wellbeing Research Center, is asking people at 65, what's the percentage of people who have EPF saving at 65? It's about 5%, so it's technically no one, right? So the money is gone. Right? So this is the issue, we need to keep it, we need to use this to see how we can create a solution. But before that, the solutions, let's look at the solutions that are available. Now, government has many programs. You have in JKM, they have Bantuan Warga Imas. Because of low saving, because of all the issues, people go to Bantuan Warga Imas, it's not sufficient. Now, you have STR. STR, 58% of senior citizens, they receive STR. So you have STR, you have JKM, those are big numbers, right? Then you have Zakat. Zakat, it also gives senior citizens. We've done a lot of research at Social Wellbeing Research Center looking at everything here. So we have also in Zakat from our survey called MARS, Malaysian Retirement Survey, people, 4.3%, they receive Zakat. Now, this is a big one here. This is a big one. Of course, I need to go to my family. Remember where we started, family is always there. Now, on average, in Malaysia, on average, senior citizens in Malaysia, on average, receive 532 ringgit each person from their children, right? And we published at the Social Wellbeing Research Center, this is not something to celebrate. It's good that people take care of each other. It's not something to celebrate. That creates a huge pressure on what we call it the sandwich generation. Because you need to take care of your children, yet you need to take care of your older parents, right? So that's something big. 532, just to understand it, it's one-fifth of median income in Malaysia. It's a quite sizable amount of money. So you have everything. You try to reduce old age poverty. You have STR, we said 58% receive STR. You have JKM, you have EPF saving, you have family, you have Zakat. So you would assume that everyone will take from the older poor, the basket of older people who live in poverty. But it's not. After everything you see here, old age poverty is serious one. It's 42% live in relative poverty. This after everything you see. Are we ready to live to 100? No. But we'll work together in finding a solution hopefully, how we can find a homegrown solution. We looked at Bismarck model. We listened up also Sweden experience. We looked at other countries. We looked at Thailand. We looked at everywhere else. But we wanted to have homegrown solution because that's very important. You cannot copy paste when solutions, but you guided by other international experience. What I mean by homegrown solution, technically you can get the smartest people in the room, and then they can design the best social security system. Technically you can do that, right? You can. I myself trained actuarial exercise. It's easy to get you a system that will be robust, sustainable, and meeting the international standards. We can do that. That's done. But wanted always to remember there is political reality in the ground. And you know that, right? There is a political reality. So what we wanted to do is something technically solid. You don't want just to give half-baked cake. We want something technically solid, but it's also politically feasible. Something that, politicians can do it. At the end of the day, you want to get vote, right? So we wanted to find the middle ground that you can have both. That's in democracy, that's the argument. If you were living in dictatorship, it's easy, right? You convince one person, one man usually, and they get it done. But it's better to have something that meets both expectations. And wanted now to start, looking at it. And, I will make, some maybe things as does not make any sense, but later on we will balance the political side of it. So we know 55, this is no good. It's not good. People live longer. We've seen that, life expectancy. So the first negative thing you want to do is to increase, negative I mean for the public. They will hate it. Tell them, I'm not going to give you your saving. I want to hold it for 60. But it's needed. You need to do it. So this is technically sound. It's important, but we'll see how we can make the package. Second thing, what we our thinking at SWRC is you need to lock in certain amount of money. You cannot withdraw all your money all at once. We don't want to make it too high because otherwise people will not buy in. Just 80,000 and take whatever above. Then 80,000, then you give 700 every month for 10 years. It will not last. 10 years, it will be okay. Now you reach age 70. Remember what we looked at other countries, what they did? Like when we looked at, for instance, Thailand, they introduced social pension, tax-funded. So this is where you create a tax-funded system. From age 70 and above, it's not costly. We'll look at cost, how much it will cost us. It will be very reasonable. So this is, the package that we're looking at. It's modest, but later on we can build on it. I know what you are thinking about. Are you crazy? You're going to tell people that you're going to withdraw your money at age 60, not 55? I mean, I look at my friend Ayman. He works in EPF. It will be scary work after that, right? It's not easy. Same time to tell them I'm going to take 80,000, but we need to look at political package. Now, hear me on this one. There is a balance. Now, we are at a balance. This balance is not good because age of withdrawal 55 is young. People live longer. We need to change the balance, but restore it. Keep it restored. So the first thing, what I said, if we increase age of withdrawal from 55 to 60, the Raqiyyat will respond negatively. Right? We know that. They're waiting, many. Some they will accept action, some they do it. Some they keep it, But I'm saying, in general. I might be wrong, but the feeling, it's always difficult. Now, you double on it if you tell them I'm going to take 80,000 and do it for 10 years. It's so negative, right? It's very difficult to do it. Now, we wanted to restore the balance. My thinking, is social pension, will it try to restore the balance? Will it try? Now, you do this, you get this. You do this, you get this. It's not enough. Now, my thing, it's again like I'm using the my, because this is just like ideas and it requires consultation. But the other idea is if you introduce social pension at 700, you might can afford reducing contribution, especially for so if you encourage people, you say, we can help you with contribution instead of 11, 12% on employee, we might accept 8%. So now let's say if I am old, I might accept this because I at least the social pension out there. I'm worried about what will happen to me when I'm old. I know me and my wife will get social pension. So it's good. If I am young, maybe the 3% reduction of EPF will help. Now, wanted to highlight this because I'm always misunderstood. This is not for the existing member, for this mandatory only for new members in EPF. If I'm 22 years old, getting into the labor market, the last thing I would care about is retirement. I want to get a job. So then you make it mandatory for them. At least we stop the bleeding. At least the new generation. Now, for the existing members, I strongly believe in sovereignty, individual sovereignty. People need to make decisions. So for existing members, you can offer it. Are you following me? Offer it as optional. Now, in new members, it's not an option, it's mandatory. Existing members, the ones who are, everyone in the room here, our age, that we already in the labor market, we already in EPF, it's optional. So how the package will work? Now, you withdraw at age 60, not 55, and we're gonna lock in 80,000 for you for 10 years. And more than this, take it. If you want, take whatever more than this. Now, if you do this, and only if you do this, you're gonna get at age of retirement, at age 70, if you do 1, 2, 3, you're gonna get 700 ringgit to you and your spouse. Take it or leave it. In addition, if you take this package, you get reduction on EPF contribution. Why reduction on EPF contribution? Because you get 700 ringgit. So you don't need all that. So now, again, for new members, it's mandatory. For existing members, you can offer it as optional to reduce the public reaction. I have my thinking, is that many people will take it. You would have, as I mentioned, you would have somebody without 80,000, somebody, let's say, with 10,000 ringgit would love to take it. Why? Because I don't have saving. Or somebody without any saving would love to take it. Because if I don't have any saving, I will get the social pension. If I don't have any saving, I'll get the social pension. If I have 10,000, it's not much. I better off take. So it's actually there is self-selection of those who are with less and less saving. So it's kind of, it's balanced. And many people will accept it because 700 ringgit it's not a lot, but it's decent for husband and wife at age 70. So at least I will have safety. Now, we look at this one in terms of cost. Can we afford it? It's a good question. It's always, we don't want to screw up making something unrealistic. But what you start seeing that I started using different language here. I call it pay as you consume, right? I'm kind of signaling we need to fund it through consumption. And what I'm saying here, we did the costing. It would require us 13 billion ringgit for the social pension, 13 billion ringgit. Half percentage point of GDP. Half percentage point of GDP. It will not go up because smaller groups will still stable. Half percentage point of GDP. Just to tell you, in Malaysia, tax to GDP ratio is 12.5, 13% of GDP. In Africa is about 17% of GDP. So way behind. We still have fiscal space. Now, again, I said we're going to use consumption to fund it. And we're moving this social pension, the social pension, we're moving it from income, which we don't know how much people are making. We're moving to consumption. Now, SSD has been broadened, you know, or if you take 1% of GST, we did the calculation, 1% of GST, one, not 6, 1, it will cover the social pension, the one I mentioned, at 1%, right? And if you want to look at this study that we did on this one, you can see it there. 1% of GST will cover 70 and above. If you do 2%, you cover from 65 and above, right? So this is where you mix the two systems. And in terms of impact, now we're introducing this for those who age 70 and above. For those who age 70 and above, relative poverty, 47%. It's quite high. 1 out of 2 live in relative poverty. If you introduce it, you cut it, you reduce it by 20%, 700. You're not going to eliminate it, but at least you significantly reduce it. Hopefully, we can do more, right? Now, let me go back to this. Are you following me? You're following me. This is a package, take it or leave it. So Rakia decides. It's not, but what I wanted to say, let's look at phase 2, because we're building a model for living to 100. We cannot live on 700 ringgit. Wanted, you know, to build a robust system. Once you do this, you build the infrastructure, the foundation, you build it, that everyone, whether a housewife or somebody in the labor market, will receive periodic payment. But what you're looking at, what if those who have adequate saving? What if I'm having quite adequate saving in EPF? You can introduce for them at age 65, you can introduce life annuity. Life annuity. So if I have a couple of million ringgit, I sit with EPF, then EPF will translate it into life annuity, a payment every month until death. Now, this model, life annuity, does not assume solidarity. There is no solidarity here. It's my money. The solidarity here, we want solidarity here. Solidarity here. But the life annuity you assume here, you assume that my money, I translate it into certain amount, periodic payment, my money. But you can think of another model here, is not life annuity. You can translate into a small amount of money that is solidarity pension. Solidarity pension. So you take 4% from everyone, existing EPF, not a new contribution, existing EPF. You take 4%, and we say we're going to add to this 700, we're going to add another 700. The 4% will give us about 700, right? So it becomes 1,400. That is solidarity. The one before, remember, it's not solidarity, it's my money. So again, like those models, if you're more ambitious, you can do all of them together in the future. You can add solidarity, you can add one. Again, this is futuristic, this one, but the first layer here is doable quickly because it's politically sound, because you will ask Rakia, they decide. It's not that I impose it on you and then you'll get the 16-year-old kid sitting behind the phone commenting on the news as if he was a retiree. Why are we doing this? You know, no. You ask people, take it or leave it. The first layer. Have a couple of minutes so I can finish with that. And that is the vision. The vision is we want to close the coverage gap. We don't want to focus only to cover this gap, the gig worker, the one in EPF. We wanted those unemployed. We wanted housewives, sitting, the ones at home, or anyone out of the labor market. They will be covered. They will not be covered by a lot, by 700 for everyone. At 1% GST, we said. Then you have this periodic payment, whether it's life annuity or it's solidarity one. and then EPF saving. So now no one is left behind. Everyone is covered, and you layer it. So it keeps the incentive for you, for everyone, the incentive for me to join EPF, to contribute more to protect my future. So what we can do if we do that, remember the story we looked at Thailand, how they did it? If we do that, simple, just ask the people, we can shift Malaysia from here all the way to 100%, right? So we can do it. But again, let me summarize it quickly. We can create a politically feasible package, but technically sound, that the decision for the Rakia to decide. The existing member. For new entrants, they can enter into the new labor market. And with that, I finish. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Amjad, for your presentation. Would you like to answer one or two questions? I believe the audience, have a few questions on the Slido, and I think, only have time for one or two questions. And always an interesting presentation, Dr. Amjad, whenever you're up there. Perhaps just this one question on what can be done to increase coverage for economically inactive, those who are economically inactive, such as caregivers. If there is a limit, if there is, if social pension is only going to kick in at age 70 to ensure adequacy, how do we ensure that they have enough savings, and how do we expand coverage to these groups?
Yeah, and that's very good, the question. Again, the issue is wage, low wage basis. So you cannot solve everything from Social Security perspective. From Social Security perspective, you do the right steps. So the issue of low saving, we need to deal with age structure in Malaysia. There is, obviously, we know that wage is low. But again, I wanted to say for those 70 and above, 1 out of 2 of them, they live in poverty after going, their children support JKM and others. Now, what we can do, if you start from 70 and above with the social pension at 1% of tax, consumption tax, you are left with 60, let's say 60 to 70. Now, remember, JKM is still there. JKM, they cover 144,000. Instead of going after everyone to cover them, now they can zoom in only from 60 to 70 to pinpoint who needs more. So it becomes their work, JKM or SDR, to focus on 60 to 70. So the little money they have now, they can actually have more impact, if I answer your question.
All right. And I believe that is all the time we have with us here today. Thank you so much, Dr. Amjad.
Thank you.
Give him a warm round of applause. Ladies and gentlemen, as always, please do rate the previous session in your event app or by scanning the QR code on the screen. Once again, for physical attendees, you may scan the QR code, and for virtual attendees, please use the event app. Not to mention, while it is still fresh in your mind, you might want to take this opportunity to answer